Warren Fiscal Court, Friday, May 10th, 2019 is now called to order. I want to welcome Father John Thomas from the Holy Spirit Catholic Church, who's here with us today to offer prayer. I'd like to ask everyone, please stand for prayer and remain standing. As Esquire Tony Payne will lead us in the pledge following. Thank you.
Let us pray. All-powerful and merciful Father, as we gather this morning, we gather recognizing your goodness. We recognize your truth. We recognize your mercy. We pray your blessing upon this court, upon all who gather here today, upon all of our government officials, those elected, those who work for our good. We pray that their decisions be wise, that they truly make decisions for the good of all people. And we pray for the people of our county, for the people of our city, that especially those who are in need, those who are hurting, those who need our help. Truly, we recognize them, we see them, and especially in our access, we offer help in their need. We pray you guide, protect, and strengthen all of us through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Here.
Esquire Lawrence.
Here.
Esquire Cummings.
Here.
We need to approve the minutes of the fiscal court meeting of April 26, 2019. We have a motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions, additions or corrections? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Here. Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If there are no objections, I'd like to move item number 24 up, and that's to approve the Barren River Area Development District Community Aging Services Donation Agreement. This is the agreement that we have passed every year since the beginning of time, I believe. But we have some of our friends from the Barren River Area Development District who are here with us, and wanted to make sure that we got this in before, because I think we're going to have a fairly lengthy meeting today. You have a motion? Yes, ma'am. And a second. Any discussion on this? Y'all, okay. Please call the roll. Rex and,
Okay.
Esquire McWhorter and Esquire Cummings.
Okay. Thank you. Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman. Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
And now, I'd like to ask our friends from the Barren River Area Development District to come forward, and I'd like to ask all the magistrates to come up front for a photograph. If we could get our county photographer to Amy. Okay, that's fine. I'm coming back.
Make room for big wig here. Y'all see the portrait campaign?
Squeeze right in here.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to read a proclamation in regard to Older Americans Month. Whereas Warren County includes a growing number of older Americans who enrich our community through their diverse life experiences, and whereas Warren County is committed to strengthening our community by connecting with and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers, and acknowledging their many valuable contributions to society. And whereas Warren County recognizes the importance of bringing together all generations and engaging in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being for the benefit of all. And whereas Warren County enhance the lives of older Americans in our community by promoting home and community-based services to support independent living, involving older adults in community events and other activities, and providing opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now therefore, I, Michael O. Buchanan, Warren County Judge Executive and the Warren Fiscal Court, do hereby proclaim May 2019 to be Older Americans Month, and urge every resident to take time during this month to recognize older adults and the people who serve as essential and valuable members of our community. Signed, Michael O. Buchanan. And before we take the picture though, I'd like to, out of respect for a couple of older adults who are here, we have the mayor of the city of Bowling Green, and Jody Richards was here.
Come on up.
Jody Richards, if you're looking for older, come on up here. The longest, our past Bowling Green city representative to Frankfurt, and the longest serving Speaker of the House in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I think this is totally appropriate for Older Americans Month, don't you?
Well, thank you. I think you fit in.
I'm right in the middle.
Our official photographer.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Everybody's smile. We're gonna do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Now hold on a second. This is for mine. Okay. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you so much. Appreciate the great job you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we move on in the agenda, we have a few visitors here with us today. Oh, excuse me. Before we move on with the agenda, we have a few visitors here today that I think are interested in the feasibility study from our friends from Lowson Associates. Chris, do we need an introduction, or have you got everything set up?
We do appreciate Lowson Associates helping us with our feasibility study. They've done a really good job, I believe, and we'd really like to thank all the citizens behind me. To make a study like this happen, you have to have public engagement, and with the folks behind us and with the individuals that couldn't make it here today because of work and different things, you'll have to ask Chris, Sean, and Josh. But I think for the public input meetings, they always told me that 50 people at a public engagement meeting is pretty awesome. On the first meeting, we had over 176, and on the second meeting, I believe we had over 112. So really appreciate the public being able to come out and being able to offer their input into into these two projects and into these two items. And so with that being said, Josh Gulick, I believe, is going to be the first presenter from Lowson Associates. Chris Camp and then Sean will be talking as well during the presentation, so we're going to turn it over to them.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Judge and magistrates. This is a great project, and we're honored to be a part of it. We are just excited to show you kind of where we are today. Just a little brief overview. I will be talking a little bit about the public engagement and a little bit about the feasibility study in relation to how we did concept plans and site selection. Then Sean is going to come up, touch on architecture and kind of concepts, and then we'll round it out with Chris, who's going to come up and talk about the numbers and economic impact. So with that, we'll jump right into it. So we had 4 measures for success, the success of this feasibility study. The first was really have a robust engagement with the community. The second was to evaluate both county-owned and private properties and try to determine preferred locations. Next, we wanted to analyze operations and construction costs for each facility. And then finally, determine potential economic impacts. So as I go through this, I won't be reading as much from each slide, but I do want to kind of highlight these are the 4 measures of success for this project as we move forward. The next, so the first meeting was the project kickoff meeting where we had the public officials, we had certain select stakeholders, and really defined how this project was going to move forward. We determined the schedule, we determined the dates, we determined the number of public input sessions and when they would happen at that meeting. We gathered a select group from the county and we toured some similar centers. So that the Adams Tennis Center and the Ford Ice Center in Murfreesboro and Nashville, respectively. Similar centers, we wanted to look at the size, really have an understanding, make sure that everyone all the decision makers, and the leaders were going to understand what these 2 centers were going to look like moving forward, and just get a real idea for scale when they were looking at these plans. We just wanted to make sure that they knew what they were looking at and had something to kind of relate it to. And those were 2 projects that we facilitated moving forward. The next was a breakout session for the business development with sports facility advisors who are really experts in this field. They really understand how to take all the numbers and the data that they get initially and with the end goal in mind and the final report and the economic impact and the cost, and really pull all that together. We then had breakout meetings with the racquet court group and the ice skating and inline skating group. So the public open houses, we had 2 of those. The first one we had, and I'll get into, we'll show a little bit further, but we had evaluated the sites. We showed 4 options of publicly owned sites that would have minimal to no capital moving forward with the sites. And then we also wanted to gauge where in the county, if we did need to look at purchasing property and looking at pieces of parcels of land that the property did not own, we wanted to get the public input. Where in the county exactly would be the best fit for these facilities? And so that was really the first public input meeting. The second public input meeting was even more in depth. We brought 8 different concept plans, different sites, 6 different sites, and really gauged input on which one looks best. So here's what we heard from the first public meeting. Here are the sites and here are the facilities on these sites. What do you guys think? So moving into the site selection, we had, as you can see, 63 sites, both public and private, that we evaluated. We ran these through this matrix, really understanding everything from, how was traffic, where the biggest traffic impacts, what are the limitations there, to adjacent uses, and run on, right down the line, just everything that we had explained in the RFQ process of what we were going to evaluate the sites. And then finally, at the end, we really were able to really say where we were recommending, what are the best sites moving forward. So with that, these were some of the boards that came out of that first public meeting. We wanted to get an idea of the program for the tennis center, the program for the ice skating complex. We pulled together image boards that said, hey, do you guys care about snack bars? Do you care about locker rooms more? Do you care about programs? And so as you can see, most of the dots were on league play. So that was one of the things we took moving forward. So we really weighted heavily the public input into our next process. And then here's the public recommending locations for areas in the county that need further study. And then this is the board that illustrated the 4 properties that we initially wanted to get input on. So that was the first public meeting. Second public meeting, these were the boards that we presented. We really moved into fitting these on the site. Seeing how the tennis center, how the ice skating complex can fit on the site. Can we fit both of them on any one site? How is this really going to function if we decide to take these pieces of property forward? The ones that really started to stick out, Buchanan for the tennis, Russellville Road, for both, which is a private parcel, and then Greenwood Mall. How how can we make that work? We're still working through and evaluating these. They each have their kind of own pro and con. One of the interesting things moving forward, if you look at the site matrix, the number one for both facilities was Ephraim. But from the input that we got from the public meetings, you can see it was a lot of votes for Russellville, and Ephraim Wright really got very few, and mostly based on location and proximity. So as we move forward, as we narrowed down these sites even further, we went to the top 4, and Ephraim White, we decided to keep that as an option in the site matrix, but it did fall down in the ranking. So that's, as you see that go, and if you dive into this, just want to give a look at the explanation on that. So the top 4, so we had our top 4. Out of that meeting, we came back, we heard what, there was talk about arrangement, we want this there, that there, and in conjunction with SFA's report on what was cost effective and what would work economically, we came back and developed these site plans. So this is a proposed site plan of what the tennis center would look like on Buchanan. And then this is what the ice center would look like somewhere in downtown. So we did kind of a model block scenario. There's a typology of blocks, and there's certain sizes of blocks downtown. And we determined that 2 of these blocks, yet to be determined, would accommodate an ice center and an outdoor ice rink. And then we would need a full second block for parking. So that's what that could look like. Then we looked a little bit further into the Greenwood Mall. It is a good site right now. We think it is feasible, but there's other issues that are coming up. A lot of these malls, they do have the massing, they do have the utilities, but it is a complete tear down rebuild. It does have the highest redevelopment costs. Unfortunately, we cannot repurpose an area of the mall. It would be just simply because of the architecture and the grid of the columns and everything. So it would be a higher development cost. So it's just something that we took into consideration. And then finally, the Russellville Road site. This is a private parcel that we decided to explore. Ephraim White was out a little bit. We needed to find one that would really accommodate both uses. And so this is great proximity to the highways. Adjacent uses would be optimal for redevelopment in this area. So that's the main reason that we took this to the next level. And then we get into architecture, and I'll hand it off to Sean here.
Thank you. So moving back to one of the first public meetings, working with SFA, we identified industry standard programmatic uses for both of these buildings and put those up for the public to identify what program items would be most important to them in these types of facilities. So with that information, first I'm going to talk about the tennis complex. We've done a few of these facilities before, and we're starting to really understand the most efficient way to lay out a building of this scale and size. Obviously is very large, and we're trying to accommodate several different uses within the building. In our study, this configuration, these are 2 different configurations that potentially could be used depending on which site is selected ultimately. Key things to take away based on our public input were the desire to look at 8 indoor tennis courts, and working with SFA, identifying that 4 indoor pickleball courts would be appropriate. Other key programmatic items included obviously locker rooms, training facility, a retail space, concessions, building support space, building administration offices, things of that nature. So here are a couple of renderings of just what a typical facility would look like. We have a second level mezzanine viewing area that you could view play on both courts, also hold large groups of people for various functions. This would be kind of a revenue generating space potentially through rentals and different events. On the ice facility, based on our experience with ice facilities and studying other facilities around the nation, again, a very similar configuration There's a central core where a lot of the building utilities and locker rooms are located. There will also be retail components, concession components, training facility, first aid, administration. Also with a facility of this nature, one ice rink would be a little bit larger to accommodate up to about 1,000 people for spectator viewing, and the secondary rink would be somewhere around 500 spectator viewers. This would also, similar to the tennis facility, have a mezzanine viewing area that you can look out on both rinks. So here's some imagery of what this could look like. You have the grandstand seating in the main rink, accommodating again up to about 1,000 people. The second rink would be about 500. Large open lobby space, skate rental, concessions area, and then revenue generating areas that could be rented out for meetings and other sort of events. So with that, we'll talk a little bit about the numbers.
Thank you, Sean. As Josh went through the beginning, you know, our objectives, and one of the main objectives was to come back to this court and talk about what would it cost to develop a facility, how big will it be, what will it cost to operate the facility, how would you operate the facility. So with the ice center, you see on the upper right over here, if the ice center goes on property you own, then the development cost, the hard cost, which is developing the building itself, is roughly $17 million. Then when you do the equipment, the furniture and fixtures, the startup costs, the ice center is a $25 million dollar project based on the program and the footprint that Sean just discussed. So that's our starting point in evaluating the feasibility. So now that we know the approximate construction cost, then we start looking at operating expenses. As an elected body, you know, it's very, I shouldn't say very easy, but it's much easier to come up with that first number, the construction cost, but then you have to operate that facility for many, many years. And so we went through a series of calculations with SFA. Up here, we have our revenue generation, followed by our expenses, our operating for staff and everything. So the ice center, you see, and we did a 5-year projection, so year 1 through year 5, the total revenue from the ice center would be just under $1 million in year 1, growing to $1.5 million by year 5. Then you see the total operating expenses. For year 1, it's almost $1.1 million, going to $1.2 million by year 5. And EBITDA is the term we use for how much revenue would this facility generate to go to its debt service. And you can see that based on our projections, to develop the ice center with the city, or excuse me, the county self-managing, you would have to subsidize the center in year 1 about $386,000. That subsidy goes down to $77,000 by year 5. Now, so we look at operating costs of developing the center, but what are other returns that your community would get from developing this center? And so then we look at out-of-market spending, and for an ice center, it's roughly $96 per person per day. So we looked at economic impact, and you see, again, year 1 through year 5, year 1, we are projecting you would have just over 8,000 non-local visitors come to Warren County, and growing to 22,000 by year 5 of non-resident visitors. And so that's going to generate room nights in your hotels. So year one is approximately 2,200 rooms, growing to over 5,000 rooms by year 5. So what does that mean in terms of spending? And I know it's a little blurry, hard to see, but year one, this new direct spending at your businesses and other things would be almost $900,000 as the result of building the I-Center, and this would grow to over $2.1 million by year 5. And again, that's people coming into your community, spending money at your hotels, your restaurants, your shops, and then a direct relation of that spending is you have a 4% hotel tax. So year one, you would take in direct revenue to the county of over $7,000, and that grows to $18,000 by year 5. So you can see, yes, you would invest $25 million to build the center. You would then have to operate with a deficit going down to $77,000 by year 5. But by year 5, that I-Center is having an impact of almost $2.2 million in Warren County in direct spending. That's with no multipliers at all. That's direct spending, and $18,000 in tax revenue that could help offset the operations and/or the debt service. So those are our numbers that we are giving you. $25 million in construction, roughly $1 million annually operating, which would result in a subsidy by the county, but $2.1 million by year 5 in new spending and tax dollars at $18,000. Now, for the tennis center, we've done 2 projections, one based on an 8-court and one based on a 6-court indoor facility. But in both of these, there are 12 new outdoor tennis courts and 4 outdoor pickleball courts that we evaluated with the indoor space. You will notice that with the 8-court complex, the construction cost for an 8-court indoor building and the outdoor courts is roughly $18 million. And so then we went through the revenue projections and the operating cost projections, just like we did with the I-Center. And you see that the revenue starting year 1 is roughly $447,000, growing to $689,000 by year 5. Operating expenses begin at $507 and grow to $561 by year 5. And your EBITDA, or your ability to render debt service, you have a subsidy of $153,000 in year 1, which that goes down as you develop your market and your business to $16,000 subsidy by year 5. So by contrast to the I-Center, your operating subsidy for an 8-court complex is about half of what the I-Center is to operate with an 8-court complex. Again, now we look at the economic impact. You see, for tennis, the spending is a little bit higher than for hockey players, roughly 110. So the total direct spending as the result of year 1, 5,000 visitors, 2,000 hotel rooms. This grows to 7,000 visitors and 3,000 hotel rooms by year 5. And so the total new direct spending, year 1 is almost $600,000, and this grows by year 5 to almost $800,000. And then again, using the hotel tax, it generates roughly $8 million in hotel tax year 1, and this grows to $11 million. So, excuse me, 11,000, yeah. So, to compare and contrast a little bit, I want to, keep these numbers in mind. So we're talking about an $18 million construction cost compared to $25 million for an ice center. But you also see that the ice center, if you remember the numbers I just shared, by year 5 was generating almost $2.1 million in new spending compared to just $800,000. So the economic impact is greater with the ice than the tennis. And the main driver for that is hockey teams are much larger. There are roughly 22 to 25 players per team for a hockey match, where with tennis, you have a maximum of 4 players per court. So you have 44 players per game versus a doubles match of 4. And that's the driver, the numbers of people that participate in hockey, and that's mainly the difference that our study revealed. Now, I want to back up here too, because we're going to now compare the EBITDA of an operating cost of an 8 indoor center versus a 6. So we did the same exercise. The construction cost for a 6 indoor court and the same outdoor courts is $15 million, a difference of approximately $3 million. The operating costs are fairly close because you can staff 6 courts and 8 courts with the same number of people. So the revenue numbers of a 6 court and an 8 court are fairly similar, but because you have a smaller building, you notice that by year 5, the 6 indoor court scenario is in positive numbers. It's actually generating a profit at the center of $22,000 versus if we go back to the 8 court indoor at year 5, you still have a loss of $16,000 in operating expenses. So that's the primary difference, and we wanted to show, we thought with the outdoor courts and the indoor courts, we could get to a positive cash flow with the 6 court scenario, so we went ahead and did that. And you'll see that the revenue generation of new spending, new hotel rooms and all is virtually the same with a 6 court and an 8 court. I'm going to back up again, but we look at year 5 with 6 indoor courts. Year 5, you're having a tax revenue of $10,000 and a new spending of just under $750,000. And if we go back to the 8, again, we see that we're just under $800,000 in new spending and $11,000 in revenue. So here are the two. Again, we want to give the court the opportunity to determine what is best for your county. And so the 8 or 6 court, all of our site plans we did are expandable up to 10 courts, indoor courts on any of the sites that we've identified as the top sites. So as you move forward, this just gives you some leverage in how you would like to approach the tennis complex. So our conclusions are this. Neither the tennis complex or the ice center will generate enough revenue to cover both operating and capital cost. But a 6 tennis complex with 6 indoor courts by the 5th year will cover its operating cost. You will still have the debt service on the construction. From an economic investment in your community, the 6 indoor tennis courts and an ice center will generate $1.4 million in new spending in Warren County in year 1, and that will grow to $2.8 million of new revenue coming into new spending, not new revenue into your, but new spending in your county, and hotel tax revenues which is new revenue, that would go into your general fund, $15,000 in year one, and that will grow to $29,000 by year 5 if you were to develop a 6 indoor court building and the ice center together. It is our opinion or position that your Warren County Parks and Recreation Department could self-manage a tennis center. They have the skill set. Obviously, you would have to add some staff, but they're running a tennis center would be very similar to operating the gymnasiums that you do now, and Chris and his staff do a good job, and they could do that. On the other hand, we feel like you will need a management partner to manage the ice center. The ice center is a much more demanding facility in terms of hours of operation. It will probably operate from something like 6 a.m. to midnight based on the demand. And you have an ice plant that is a very demanding piece of equipment. It's like operating an indoor aquatic center. You have to have special staff that understand those systems. So we are of the opinion you would need a partner to operate the ice center. The ice center, we looked at various locations, but through our study, we have found out that you have a TIF district downtown, and there are opportunities to generate additional revenues to offset your capital development costs that are not available at other locations that are available downtown within your TIF district, which would benefit your debt service payments for the ice center. So we think that should be studied with great detail and has many merits for going downtown, in addition to the synergy that the ice center would bring to your ballpark and other facilities you have. We feel that both projects will definitely help you in your corporate recruitment and growth. You have a lot of the automotive industry here, a lot of suppliers here, and a lot of those companies are coming to Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky because of all the automotive that is in the region. And a lot of those companies are coming from the north, where ice hockey is a very popular sport. So we think it will help you with your industrial recruitment. And in closing, well then, what are the next steps? Well, you have to identify your preferred sites for both facilities, determine if you want to purchase a site or you're going to go on property you own, determine the partnership or management opportunities for the ice center and negotiate that agreement. And I would also say that's true for the tennis, because you have the potential for partners that we've identified with Western Kentucky, the school system, the city of Bowling Green, that could be partners on both of these projects. You have to work with your finance director in determining your bonding capacity and cash flow requirements for each project. Then you identify and negotiate your funding participation by your partners. You now know how much you're going to spend, and you seek out your partners to see how much they're willing to participate. And then if you move forward on these projects, you're looking at about 6 months of design time to take and design the buildings, the site plans, and all the work. And then each of these projects would take about 12 to 18 months to build. So if you move forward from today, you could have a project, either of the two projects, open in the spring of 2021, and we'll take questions.
I know you guys have had an opportunity to look it over before, but I'm sure you have questions. We have questions. Would you please come forward and come to the microphone so everybody can hear?
Thank you very much. Thank you, judges and committee. And Chris for initiating and getting this study going. I just had two questions. One, you mentioned that the TIF district downtown could have added advantages. Is there a site that you've identified as a possibility? That's question one. And then in the numbers you presented, tennis and the ice facility, the cost that you put up, was that presuming they were in one building together or potentially two buildings separate?
I'll answer the second question first. No, they are not in the same building. They're not connected. And each one takes about 10 acres or so with the parking and stormwater and all. And repeat your first one again real quick.
You had mentioned the TIF district.
Yes. Yes, the TIF district, there are different taxes, both sales tax and employee taxes and things that will generate more revenue for the county. And Greg, if you want to add any comments to that, or
I think he
Doug?
asked if there was a site.
Oh, no, no, we have not identified a site. Let me go back.
Purposely.
Let me go back to this. You see, this is one city block, and this is one city block. It will require up to 2 city blocks worth of space downtown. One of the blocks, for 2 indoor ice rinks and an outdoor inline hockey, it does take 1 full city block for the building and the outdoor. The parking could then be 4 quarters, you know, a quarter of a block here, a quarter of a block here, a quarter of a block, you know, but it's equal space to 2 city blocks downtown.
But nothing that you've seen thus far?
We did not identify sites purposefully. We don't want to influence the cost of those sites. So, but there are, the TIF district is multiple blocks downtown, so it's a large area that you could work with.
And Chris, just to reemphasize to the folks here, the cost projection includes no land acquisition cost on this project.
None of the, for the tennis center or the hockey, we have $0 in for land, so.
Keep that in mind too. We're shocked you're talking.
Magistrates, Judge, we got a couple of questions. Do you know what the court occupancy rates were on the indoor tennis center that they used for the study? The court occupancy rate?
Not off the top of my head, but yes, we did do projections for use, detailed projections.
Okay. And then a number of memberships?
Yes, we have memberships, we have
Okay.
tournaments, all of those things were factored in.
All those are in the study, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. That's really the only questions I have. Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone here? Yes.
Good morning. Replacement cost on this high-tech ice equipment, how long of a lifespan and cost of replacement?
That's a tricky one to answer. Obviously, technology continues to increase. Ice plants are becoming more and more efficient, user-friendly, lasting longer. Basically, I think, again, our recommendation would be to partner with an operator to maintain and keep those systems running as long as possible. It's our experience that with regular maintenance, you can see these equipment lasting a significant amount of time. I mean, there's facilities operating with 20-plus years equipment. Just they require regular maintenance and a knowledgeable team to service the high-tech equipment. But again, they are becoming more reliable, more efficient. We are seeing too from the green technology sector that the ice plants are able to provide additional heating and cooling benefits to the rest of the building, which then reduces the cost for traditional mechanical equipment throughout the rest of the facility. So there's lots of options, and it basically depends on the facility's selected upfront costs on which type of system they want to go with, but it's going to take a very specialized operation group to maintain and operate those equipment.
Any other questions from anyone here? Any questions from the fiscal court members?
In closing, I just want to echo what Chris said earlier. Your tennis community has been very good to work with, provided us a tremendous amount of information on tournaments and things that they do. Same for the ICE group. And so your citizens have been wonderful, turned out in numbers like we don't see normally in the meeting. So it's been a very engaging process, and Chris and his staff have been very good to work with, and we've enjoyed working with the court. So if you have any other questions, feel free to follow up with us at the office. And just to echo what Sean just said, you know, you're looking at a 15 to 20 year life cycle on most of this big equipment, and with the way technology is evolving today, you know, 15 years from now, you might pull off just a component of the ice making system and replace a component, because it is very much a component system. It's the actual ice plant machine is as big as the area where you are setting. It's that big, but it's a bunch of components, and it comes built on a skid. So, Judge, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. I've studied this. I've studied or read over and reviewed this study for the last week or so, and it appears to me that the tennis enthusiast and the ice enthusiast have been extraordinarily helpful and engaged in this study. And you all have done a very thorough job. But we would need, in order to accomplish either or both of these, we would need a real partnership with those enthusiasts who are already actively engaged in this to help sell sponsorships in both facilities. And in both facilities we viewed in Tennessee, that's exactly the way they funded a great deal of their upfront cost. And memberships. Memberships are help to offset either debt or operations cost. And then third, we'll need, particularly in the ice rink, as you all have recommended, and that we certainly recognize, we'll need an actively engaged partner to operate. And we're talking with someone now, and hopefully that will come to fruition, and we'll have something that we can not have to look at the operations and maintenance and have some absorption of the debt service as well. If all those things work out and all the stars are lined up perfectly, I can see that we can accomplish these. But I think we're still going to need your all's ongoing partnership in putting this together. I don't know exactly who the individual sponsors might be, but we can get you a list of who they were in some of these other facilities. And I'm pretty sure with the number of people who are here supporting this right now, you all have contacts and friends within those organizations who may be interested in being sponsors or partners to help make this happen for our community. With the number of responses and the number of people who have participated in these open meetings, I'm satisfied that there's a desire in the community, an overwhelming desire, but we obviously have limitations, and we'll need to continue this process with partnerships and relations and synergizing our mutual relationships throughout this area to be able to justify
the expense. These are both a little higher than what we had anticipated. Well, significantly higher than what we had hoped. And it's a lot to absorb. But I think we all recognize what hurdles we have to clear to make this happen, and we'll continue to work with the fiscal court members, with our financial advisors, and also, and most importantly, with all you guys to see that this progresses hopefully to fruition, but we'd like to see both these projects completed, but we've got a distance to go before I could say that I would, I'm not trying to speak for you guys, but before I had a comfort level with proceeding. I know that's not the answer we all wanted to hear this morning, but you all saw the presentation and the numbers at the same time everyone else did. So we just have to be realistic in going forward on this. If we can, I think there's a unanimous consensus from the people I've talked to on the fiscal court and in county government. They'd like to see both these facilities happen. But we got to put all of our efforts to work together to come up with the financial ability to make this happen. That's pretty much it. Do any of you guys have anything to add to that?
Judge, the only thing I would add to it is to make sure everybody clearly understands, we're talking about potentially with land acquisition, we're probably looking at a $45 million bond, potentially to put, if we, both these facilities based on numbers that we've seen here. And that's a large number to debt service, and it's a large financial burden that we need to make sure that we are do due diligence properly for the citizens of Warren County. I think all of us are for it if we can make the numbers work. But it is when you put them both together, it's a significant, and we've never come close to bonding that kind of money, ever. So.
Any other comments, questions? Any other? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Curious, in your study for the ice facility, for the tennis, you had 6-court, 8-court option. Did you consider it all in your numbers, say 1 sheet of ice without the outdoor inline, so just a 1 sheet of ice facility? Would that significantly change costs, as well as without the outdoor inline, given that we do have an inline facility in Bowling Green?
We did not. The models that we have visited and the models that we have talked with potential partners have all been 2-court. The outdoor court is not that expensive. It would not reduce the cost significantly. If you did do 1 indoor sheet of ice, it would reduce the cost, but it would also reduce your ability to host tournaments significantly, and therefore that $2.1 million in spending, new spending, would go down significantly. But you could, but we chose the 2-court model.
Yes, sir.
There was reference made to sponsorships and partnerships to cover the costs. Of the other studies that were made, what was the percentage relationship as to what was covered versus the project cost?
I don't know that was determined. I'm basing those comments on costs that were shared with us when we visited other facilities. And they came up with significant amounts of funding for those sponsorships, naming rights, and for instance, one facility, tennis facility we visited, they were
every meeting room and every court had someone's permanent name on that. So there were naming rights associated with each of those courts as well.
Sure.
And every meeting room within the facility. And I don't have those numbers, but I know that we've got to make them work for us, not so much what they paid for those.
Sure.
10 years ago when they built theirs, or 8 years ago.
I was just curious what kind
So
of
I don't know.
cost around-
I don't know yet, but we're going to dig into that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Would you please come forward? Hi,
Thank
Marty.
you. We've come a long way since, I think it was September last year. And when we came in September, it was for indoor courts, kind of only. And so my question is there a figure of construction costs for just the indoor courts and not the outdoor facility?
The outdoor courts and site work is approximately $3 million of that number. But I would again say, as I just said about the ice hockey, the tournaments and things that you can do with the outdoor courts is significant benefit. And we live in a part of the country where if it's nice outside, the majority of tennis players are going to play outside. And the county currently does not have a tennis complex. You have a couple of courts here, a couple there. So it's our recommendation that if you decide to do an indoor complex, you definitely need to provide outdoor courts at that location. But it's about $3 million.
Right. They do have that separated out, and we have already made cursory contact with a potential outdoor tennis partner so that we can hopefully take that off of our plate. Any other questions? Be happy to answer any questions that I can. Please come forward.
For the tennis facility, would there be land acquisition required at Buchanan or at Russellville? So that wouldn't be the...
Buchanan, no. Russellville, yes.
Okay, so there are options without the land acquisition.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
No land acquisition in Ephraim White Eagles.
Okay, or Ephraim. Thank you. I just...
Yeah. Yes, sir. Please come up.
My question is to you about the feasibility. When you said that the hockey facility would generate 25 based on 25 people at a time on a court, when you said only 4 for tennis, were you also looking at the fact that a tennis tournament might be 40 or 50 people? And would that make a difference? And were those numbers involved in the hotel revenues?
Yes. The answer is yes. Tennis tournaments are going to bring more, I hate to use the word teams, but more participants. You can host a tennis tournament on, in this scenario, 6 or 8 indoor and 12 outdoor, so you can have 20 plus courts generating at one time, but it's 4 players per court. I was comparing versus teams of 22 on an ice. The teams are bigger. You'll have fewer teams, but in a hockey tournament, but you have more players per team. So that was calculated in the feasibility study.
Any other questions from the audience? Anyone here that's... Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. As far as the ice rink, did you consider all the states that tournaments that they would be involved in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
about pledges, donations, and memberships from the community and businesses. What kind of amount would that take for the court to take that serious? I mean, when you got a cost like that, what would it take from the businesses and community?
I can't answer that yet.
I figure that's a tough question.
we're-
That's what I figured. But I figured it was, you'd posed the question. I figured, I mean, if you wanted the people to get after it,
I can't answer that at this point. We're working with our financial people to make that determination where the gaps are.
All right, thank you.
So, but there were significant monies raised in both those facilities that we looked at, and I'm hoping that we can fill the gap with what we need with sponsorships. And as soon as I have that information, I'm going to share it with you all, and you can. I'm sure if I tell one of you, it'll go through pretty quickly. All right, thank you. I will try very hard to get that information as soon as possible, though. Anyone else? No other questions from the court members? Thank you all so much. Before we proceed with the... I'm sorry. Come right up, Coach.
Participate in the regional tennis tournament this weekend.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to wish them luck. We got 164 kids coming into town this weekend to play the regional tournament for the high schools. So I just wanted to recognize a lot of them are here out of school this morning just to support us. So
good.
I wanted to point that out.
Where y'all
Good.
playing at? Just curious.
Kariakis Park and Greenwood High School.
I see you've got some Spartans here, too. Naturally. We're very happy to have you all here, and I hope that we can get this done. But it's a high step, as you can see. But we'll continue to work toward this together, Fiscal Court and you all, and it will absolutely need to have your ongoing participation in this.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
I think one of the things that's come out of all of this, and I would ask Ms. Fee to comment on this, is the schools are going to start teaching tennis. Is this correct?
Ms. Fee?
That's the first time I think he's ever called me that.
I can't believe he put you on the spot like that.
So we got in contact with Warren County Board of Education, and they are going to teach in all the elementary schools of Warren County net generation. They're going to incorporate it in their PE programs.
Yeah.
So that training will happen, I think, the Wednesday after school is out, and they'll be ready to go for fall.
From everything I read, tennis is on the upswing nationally, and that's a good thing. It's a good time to be getting more involved. And of course, hockey is really on the upswing and ice in the South.
Right.
And the Predators have brought a lot of that attention to ice rinks and hockey itself. So we're hopeful that that we can work with the county school system as well. So we're looking for partnerships, and I feel certain that they are open to partnering with us in some ways. I don't want to overstate that. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Comer.
You can't have any.
I'm neutral. All right, just as a closing comment is, for all the citizens behind us, this is the first feasibility study. If you can believe it or not, I've been around going on about 20 plus years now with the Parks Department, and have been involved in various projects throughout the course of that time. And so one of the cool things about this project is the public engagement piece. I don't think there's been a parks project that we've been able to bring community members together such as this today, to show interest and to really show support for two different proposed future projects. And so to be able to have the public interaction in public meetings with Lowson Associates, one person standing at the podium representing a division or department can be a very hard sell. The sellers of vision and of strategy and strategic thinking are the people that are really behind us. And so that is your citizenship and your community. And I think that Warren County is blessed to have citizens that really see the value of quality life and then also of leisure services. That's not common in all the municipalities across the country. And to have that type of quality of life to where you can have memberships at input meetings of 170 plus to 112 plus is really an amazing thing in a community our size. And so I'd like to thank the citizens behind us and for all the citizens that could not be here today, and then all the citizens that have made comments for and against future developments of various projects. That is all part of the public engagement piece, which is really critical for projects like this. So again, thanks to Lowson Associates. I think they've done a great job. And thank you to all the citizens for being able to come out, offer their input up or down, either way. And it takes a village. It doesn't take an individual to cause change. And I think that if you've looked at our county over the past 20, 30 years, things take time. You have to be strategic. You have to look at all things when you run a business and or government, just like you all do. But it all starts with that vision. And so I appreciate the comments from the folks behind us and from the folks that couldn't be here today. And thank you, Court, for the time to bring this to your all's attention.
Thank you so much, Chris. And you and your staff do a fantastic job, and I know you're enthusiastic about this, but I know you understand our limitations and your own limitations within the department. I think you guys have done a great job on this, very thorough, and it's very eye-opening. But it gives us information that we can continue to review and information that we can use to further this process, I hope. But I'm going to depend on Ms. Fee to get all this done. If there are no
one final closing comment, I want to thank Lowson Associates for the thorough information they give us.
Yeah.
And what they have now provided us is going to be allow us to make a good decision when the time comes to make that decision. And we still got a long way to go to make that decision. But I think that this information is going to be valuable to us to assist us. And so thank you for your work. Chris, thank you and your staff for all the time and effort you all have made. A lot of people don't know how much time you spent, but I do, and I appreciate it. And I think the citizens of Warren County, we're lucky to have you as our Parks Director, so thank you.
We'll try to get some information pulled together within the next month so that we can go forward and hopefully continue to bring this to a conclusion, a positive conclusion. If there are no other questions or comments about this, I would like a motion for a 5-minute recess. We have a motion for a 5-minute recess by Squire Cummins, second by Squire Young. Warren Fiscal Court, Friday, May 10th. Now it's called to order. If everyone's ready to go, we're going to go ahead with and approve the work schedule for the Warren County Road Department.
Motion.
We have a motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Further discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman. Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we do 6 at one time?
Okay. Next item is to approve personnel changes for Warren County.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Payne. Discussion or question? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Gorman. Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
The next item is to approve second and final reading of ordinance 1915, authorizing a line agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and North Ridge Subdivision, Section 10. Motion by Squire Cummings. Second by Squire Young. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Gorman. Esquire Young. Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve second and final reading of ordinance 1916, authorizing a line agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and Upton Farm Subdivision.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve second and final reading of ordinance 1917, authorizing a lighting agreement between Warren Rural Electric Cooperative Corporation and McCoy Place Phase 4.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve second and final reading of ordinance 1918, rezoning property at 1850 Blue Level Road from agriculture to residential estate containing approximately 3.63 acres and presently owned by KT LLC in care of Kelly Thompson.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Payne. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 11 is to approve determination in the amount of $11,175.01 to Wright Equipment for replacement mower for Buchanan Park. This is Sourcewell contract number 062117 DAC. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Gorman. Esquire Young. Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve the food service increases provided in the contract signed in 2018 with Aramark for the Warren County Regional Jail, 650 to 750 inmates from $1.06 per meal to $1.09 per meal from 7/1/2019 under 650 inmates from $1.08 per meal to $1.11 per meal during this same date.
So moved.
Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Cummings. You want to explain all that, Jailer Harmon?
Judge, you did a pretty good job explaining it. In 2018, when we signed with Aramark, it's customary for all the food service providers and corrections that each year they look at the CPI, Consumer Price Index model, and each one that it allows for a certain percentage of increase each year. And so this is it's a minimal increase, but it's still an increase.
Just curious, how long is this contract? Is it an ongoing type thing? Is it renegotiated? Or is
It is. We signed, in order to get some of the capital improvement money that we got last year, we signed, I believe it's through the end of the term.
Any questions? We have a motion
And second.
and a second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions for Jailer Harmon? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 13 is to approve determination in the amount of $10,920 to Wright Equipment for a 72-inch John Deere replacement mower for Griffin Park. This is a Sourcewell contract number 062117 DAC. Motion by Squire Gorman, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, the next item is to approve the purchase of a Case CX-80C excavator in the amount of $107,193.57 to Diamond Equipment at state price contract and paid for by the Warren County Stormwater Department.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence and second by Squire Young. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, grant authority to advertise for the following items: 1901 aggregate materials, 1902 emulsified asphalt, 1903 metal drainage pipe, 1904 signs, 1905 gasoline and diesel fuel, 1906 tree trimming services, 1907 is bituminous asphalt for resurfacing, and this, of course, would include our county annual resurfacing program, and also our any flex funds that are awarded, and for our discretionary roads that we've requested. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve Resolution 1907 to the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security for a grant to purchase radios for the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department. This is no cost to Warren County General Fund. Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire Young. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next item is to accept the bid for road salt from Compass Minerals in the amount of $98.25 per ton for the Warren County Road Department. Motion by Squire Young, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve determination in the amount of $6,828 to Trailer World for 24-foot trailer for the Warren County Parks Department. 3 quotes were solicited, only 2 received. This is the lowest and best quote.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Young, second by Squire Cummings. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve emergency determination in the amount of $1,066.50 to Lowe's for Bowling Green, Lowe's of Bowling Green for election supplies for the Warren County Clerk's Office. And these were purchased as an emergency need. Motion by Squire Young, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve the final settlement of the Warren County Clerk for 2015 through 18 in the amount of $2,098,015.60.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Young, second by Squire Lawrence. Discussion or questions? Perhaps Ms. Yates would like to explain this to us. I think you'd probably like to. Well, I was counting on that.
But as always, we're very respectful with taxpayer dollars, and we are very proud that we can turn that over. 4 years passes so fast, I can't believe that we're into the next one, but we were very proud to turn that money over. I might add that over my term, we have turned over, in addition to the regular revenues that you get monthly to the county, we've turned over $5,086,821.71 over the 4 years of my term. So we've been very, very proud about that. But
I agree.
So hopefully the next 4 years, with the growth of Warren County, we'll be able to turn over a whole lot more. But we are very respectful of that money, and we try to be.
You truly are, and I appreciate it very much, and thank you on behalf of Warren Fiscal Court and all the citizens of Warren County.
Well, thank you all very much, and we get to do it again. Say yes to Yates. So 4 years.
We have a motion and a second. Go ahead and do the roll. Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield as the carrier for health and vision insurance, Delta Dental as the Delta insurance carrier, and Lincoln Life as the life insurance carrier for the employees of Warren County. County will contribute $575 a month toward the monthly premium for those employees who participate and complete the wellness program.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Cummings, second by Squire McWhorter. Discussion or questions?
I'll compliment Greg and his staff for negotiating a pretty well flat line increase. That's incredible in this day and time, so thank you.
Greg and his staff have done a great job. We appreciate it very much.
Greg, what kind of participation do we have from the county employees?
As far as the wellness program?
Yes, sir.
I would say probably 2/3.
It's getting better all the time.
Yeah, we're seeing better utilization, and it's showing in the premium renewals. I think that's contributed to the flat renewal, is the fact that we've had more and more employees participating in the wellness.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is to approve the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Roadway Centerline Maintenance Program.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Lawrence, second by Squire Gorman. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item is simply to make part of the record the compliance approval letter for the 2018 Solid Waste Management Plan. And since this involves money, we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Squire McWhorter, second by Squire Young. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter.
Yes.
Esquire Gorman.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to pay the bills. Will the treasurer please present the claims to the court?
General Fund, $1,480,327. Road Fund, $430,897. Jail Fund, $450,967. Stormwater Fund, $40,080. And LGEA Fund, $10,000. If you have to answer any questions.
Motion to pay claims.
Motion by Squire Lawrence to pay claims is submitted, second by Squire Payne. Discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Esquire McWhorter. Esquire Gorman.
Yes.
Esquire Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Payne.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am.
Esquire Cummings.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Sheriff Hightower, let's step out. Okay. Ms. Yates, do you have anything else you'd like to share? Thank you, Judge. Thank you again. Jailer Harmon? Thank you, Judge. Mr. Comer? Thank you, Judge. Mr. Moore? Mr. Young? Mr. Pearson? Oh. Mr. Brandstetter is busy working upstairs. He's got a lot going on. Mr. Appling? Mr. Peterson? Ms. Alexiff is not with us, right? Okay. Mr. Markham? Chief, y'all got anything? Okay. Hey, congratulations on opening up the new substation, Chief. That was very, very nice facility out there. It's pretty much exactly what you need. I'm very, very impressed with what a great job they did on it. And I want to thank everybody else in the county government that participated on that as well, because I know that the parks supplied some trees, and that's one of the great things we have about in the county, is that we have every department kind of works and helps the other departments, and we appreciate it. The great relationship from department to department. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. Thank you, Ben. Ms. Bessinger, do you have anything you'd like to share? Squire McWhorter, do you have anything?
Happy Mother's Day this weekend to all the mothers.
Squire Young?
Thank you, Judge.
Squire Cummings?
Shortly, Soapbox Derby, 23rd Annual Soapbox Derby is next weekend. We'll have a ribbon cutting and luncheon, and anybody who's never been down the hill, 11:30 next Wednesday. All members of court are invited to come and participate. And if you've never been down the hill, I would encourage you to do that. It's a lot of fun, and also the other encouragement was for everybody to get out. It's not very well publicized election coming up in 2 weeks. Make sure if you're registered to vote, get out and vote in that primary. So.
Squire Payne?
Judge, I'd just like to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day, and I would like to publicly wish my wife a happy anniversary last Monday. We've been married 47 years.
I know it.
That's enough.
Squire Lawrence?
Thank you, Judge.
Squire Gorman?
Judge, just want to congratulate one of my favorite all-time constituents, Christina Rose Gorman, who is graduating from Western tomorrow with a whole lot of honors that I know nothing about, but I'm proud of her for doing all that. And that is our 5th and final kid through Western, so I'm tickled to death. So congratulations for her.
Isn't it kind of ironic that the Western's cutting a lot of programs now that your funding's over with?
Yes, exactly. That's fine with me. I don't care what they do from now on, so it's good.
No, he's the golden throat.
Ms. Milliken?
Happy Mother's Day to everyone. Thank you,
Especially your mother.
especially my mother.
Thanks, Judge.
All right. Ms. Hale?
I know, you're like, I'm just gonna go.
Ms. Smith? Certainly, we want to wish everyone, particularly my wife and my mother, happy Mother's Day. And today at noon is the proclamation for the FOP, well, for the Police Week proclamation. And this is at the FOP. They have a memorial service there each year. It's at noon today. Those of you who can be out to the FOP, I'm sure they'd love to see you out there. And it's a very meaningful service, and I hope you can come. The Soapbox Derby is before the next, I guess it's the day before our next meeting. We do want to make sure everyone gets there that can. It's grows every year, it seems like. Graduation for Western and Sky CTC is tomorrow. And if you can go to Western's, just so you can see Doug's daughter at Western's graduation, you should. And if you can't, you can watch it on TV, and also you can watch the Sky CTC online live. Is any other business to be brought before this body?
Next court meeting will be?
Next court meeting is May 24th, Friday, May 24th at 9 a.m.
First bricklaying is?
First bricklaying is May 24th at 8 a.m. So those of you who can be, all of you should be there for that. So I hope you will. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. Motion by Squire Lawrence to adjourn, second by Squire Gorman.